Hey everyone, welcome back. In this particular video, we are going to cover about the basics of the domain, DNS and the servers. So without wasting time, let's get started. So what exactly is a domain? So whenever you access any website, you go to some URL. So in that particular URL, you can see the domain name of the website. So let's say you want to access the Google's website. So what you type in the browser, it's a google.com. So that's the domain name. Let me give you one example right here. So let's open our screen right here, and here I'll type Google. Okay, so I want to go to the Google's website. So whenever I go to the Google's website, can you see the URL of the Google website right here? It says https://www.google.com. So the google.com is the domain name. So that's the domain name. Then there is another part of the domain which is a www, that's called the subdomain, and whatever is here in the top, which is https or it can be http, so we call that protocol. Okay, so you might be wondering, this is a protocol, this is a subdomain, this is the main domain, then what is this? So that's what we call top level domain name. Okay, and whatever comes after we call the directory structure or directory. Okay, so as simple as that. So let's go back to the board and let's try to put on the screen what is happening. Okay, so we try to access https, sorry, let me change the color, https://www.google.com. Okay, so that's what we try to access. So initially when we ask anyone, they say this is the domain name, okay, the google.com, but no, this is not the domain name. The actual domain name is this one. So this is what we call the domain. This is what we call the top level domain. So I'll write domain here. This is TLD, that means top level domain name. Whatever comes after this is called dir structure, okay, or you can say directory. And whatever is coming before the domain name, so whatever coming before this particular domain, that's what we call the subdomain. Okay, subdomain. And this is obviously the protocol. Okay, it can be http also, it can be https also. So some of you might have thought that they have seen the website like this also, https://xx/www.google.com, right? So these kind of websites still exist. Okay, so people might say that what is this access part? We said that this is the domain, this is TLD, top level domain, then there is a subdomain. Then what is this access part? So this is also called as a subdomain. So whatever comes after the slash 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 and before the actual domain, so whatever comes here, that's called the subdomain. So it can be 1.2.x yt dot, let's say ww, whatever it is, right? So whatever comes here, that's called the subdomain. It doesn't matter how long it is, it doesn't matter what variation it is using, it's a still subdomain. Okay, so that's clear. So we now have idea what exactly is subdomain, what exactly is the domain, and what exactly is a top level domain, or you can say TLD. So now here in the TLD also we have few variations. So right now I am using .com. So it can be .co also, it can be .tk also, it can be .ru also, it can be .io also, it can be .ai also, right? So it depends which top level domain name you want to buy. So whenever we go to the website to buy the domain name, they usually offer variety of top level domain names for one exactly domain. So let me give you example. So here is my screen. Let's go to the any website where we can purchase the domain. It can be GoDaddy also, we can use the Namecheap also, but on the Namecheap it is easier to explain, so I'll go to the Namecheap. Okay, so I'll say Namecheap right here. By the way, I don't recommend to buy a domain on the Namecheap. I'm just it is easy to understand on the Namecheap, that's why I'm explaining right here. So can you see here they are saying search for domain. So what we need to do is click on the best mode right here, and here we can see the detailed view. So here basically we can enter the name. Suppose I want to start the business with the name of taste, or you can say text 1234. That's my business name, taste 1234. Now either I can have test1234.com .tk whatever, where I can see. So can you see in the right here it is saying search for 1194 TLDs. That means that much top level domains are there. If I click on the popular, can you see in the popular we have .com here that we can select if you want to select. .me is there, which is also top popular. Then .ai, .io, these all of these are the popular. And we have others also right here, .co, .us. If you know, Zoom is using zoom.us, right? So us.us is also there. So that's we call the top level domain name. So we can either deselect or select here, and if I do search right here, I'll say select all, and if I search right here, can you see it is searching for taste123 .ac, .academy, .accountant, right? So that's what we call the top level domain name. I hope you understand what is a TLD or top level domain name. Okay, so let's close this particular website right here. Let's go back to the our board. So here I think the domain is clear. This particular domain topic is clear. Okay, so I'll just erase everything and we will continue with the next topic. Okay, the DNS topic. So in the DNS also we are going to use something about the domain name. So for that I'll just give the domain name with the example, let's say google.com. Okay, that's we are going to use as a example. Okay, so this is our domain and this is our TLD. Great. Now here, so what exactly is a DNS? You can imagine DNS is a book. Okay, DNS is a book and every domain has its own book. So when I say google.com, it has own its book. I'll say book right here. It is not a book, but for understanding you can say it's a book, right? So if I go, let's say google.co, hence I am changing the top level domain name for Google. I have different book for this one. Each unique domain name has its own DNS book. So what exactly is happening in the DNS book? Okay, so let's try to explore what is happening in this particular book. So let's imagine this is the book. So in this particular book we write the rules. What kind of rules? So when we go to the Google's website, how does the browser know where to find the Google website, right? So for this book is used. So let's say this is my browser. Okay, so I am using Chrome. I'll say Chrome right here and I'll type google.com right here. Okay, sorry, spelling mistake, the google.com. So when we enter the google.com, browser loads the Google website, right? But how does exactly browser know where to find the Google's website? So what does browser do? Browser will send request to this particular book, or you can say DNS. Okay, let's say DNS. Browser will send request to DNS. DNS will have the records of that particular domain. Okay, so the record will be different types. There are record which says A name record, triple A records, MX records and all. We are not going to go in the details, but let's explore the A name record. So what exactly is the A name record? A name record will tell where exactly the website is hosted. Suppose website is hosted on this particular IP address. Okay, this particular IP address, then there will be a name record in this particular DNS book. Okay, DNS book, Google's DNS book, which will show the IP address of the server where the website is hosted, and that request will be sent to the that response will be sent to the browser again. Then browser will make the request to the server where the IP address is, this IP address, right? It can be anything. So I'll just say x.x.x.x. Okay, that's the IP address I'm using for example, right? So here it will take the Google's website and come back to the browser, and here it will present you the Google's website, right? So this is how typical process works. When we say give me google.com, it will go to the DNS. It will check in the DNS book a name record for google.com, where it will find the IP address where the google.com website server is. Then it will take that IP address back to the browser, and then browser will make request to this particular server where the IP address is, and then server will send back to the website, right? So this is how the complete cycle works. Okay, so that's all about the DNS. Of course, DNS is an advanced topic. In the DNS we have different types of the records. ANM record shows where is at, that means where the IP address is. That's the role of the ANM record. But we have a lot of record like CNAME record, MX record. CNAME records used to create CNAMEs, and MX record used to create the mail service, and lot of. But in this particular course, it is not important. We just going to deal with the ANM record. So that's why I mentioned ANM record here. But if you have any doubt, you can just comment below and I'll answer it. No issue. Okay. So that's all about the DNS. DNS is nothing but the book which maintains the record. Okay, let's erase this all of this and let's explore what exactly is this server. Okay, so now we will explain the server. So as I said, DNS will have one IP address, and from that IP address will be any server's IP address. So that's where the server comes. So what is exactly server? Server is nothing but the computer. Right now you are watching, let's say, video on your laptop. That's also one computer. You are watching on the desktop, PC, whatever. That's also the computer, right? So server is also computer. The only thing is your computer, that whatever you are watching video on, is optimized to do daily tasks like playing the games, doing the coding and whatnot, right? But the server are optimized to host the website. Okay, so that's the difference between your computer and the computer which is hosting the website, right? Both are the computers, but one is optimized for the daily work and one is optimized for hosting the websites. Okay, okay, let's explore about these servers right here. So imagine this is the server. Okay, or you can say slash computer also, because the server is also the computer. Only thing is it is just optimized to host the website. Okay, so right now on the computer, which OS you are using? So let's say if I show my screen right here, so can you see I have Windows icon right here. So that means I am using the Windows OS. Sometimes I use the Ubuntu also. Ubuntu is a Linux OS. So on your computer we can install different OSs. It can be Windows, it can be Mac, it can be Linux also, or you can say Ubuntu also, right? So these are the three OSs available for, let's say, desktop, right? Obviously there are a lot of OS available, but for example, let's take the three examples: Windows, Mac, and let's say Ubuntu. These are the OSs. Similarly, we have the OSs for our server also. We need to choose which OS we are going to use. In most of the time, like 99.99% of the time, people use Linux OS on their server. They don't use Windows, they don't use Mac, they use Linux. Okay, so in the Linux, I earlier told you, like it can be Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu is just one example. We can have Ubuntu, we can have Debian, we can have Linux Mint, we can have Alma Linux, we have Amazon Linux also, and we have a hell lot of options. But the very familiar option is Ubuntu, so we are going to stick with the OS Ubuntu. Okay, now what is the difference between your computer and the server? First thing, obviously the OS is different. On your computer you might be using Windows or Mac, but on the server we are going to use the Ubuntu. We have freedom to choose any OS, but we are going to use the Ubuntu. Another thing is your computer or home computer or your laptop has a dynamic IP address. That means the dynamic, your IP address can change, let's say tomorrow, in each 3 days, in each hour, or something like that. It is not a static IP address. So that's the difference. On server we have the static IP. Okay, on your computer you have the dynamic IP. Okay, so why the static IP? Because let's say you host your website on the server and you have the book called the DNS also, in which you are entering the name record where you are mentioning the IP address of the server. So if this IP address is dynamic and changing every single day, then you need to make changes here every single day. That's not efficient, right? So that's why we have this static IP address on these servers, so that once we add the IP address right here, it will not change, right? Until and unless you are creating the new server, or you are creating, let's say, yeah, you are changing the server or something, right? So that's the difference between your server and your normal desktop. Another difference is, right now, can you see, in my desktop I can use anything, like I can click here, I can click here. If I want to open the file manager, I can open the file manager also. I can see my videos there that are getting recorded. So all of this action happening graphically, that means I can see on my display, right? And on the server side, it is not necessarily graphic. Most of the time, like 99.99% time, we use the CMD, command prompt, or the terminal to perform the actions on the server. Okay, so I'll say CMD right here, okay, in my board. Okay, right here, this is the CMD. So let me give you one example of how exactly the command prompt works. Okay, so let's say this is my Windows, and here I'm opening CMD. So this is my CMD command prompt, exactly same as we are going to use on the server. Okay, from this particular command prompt we are going to access the server. So can you see, here we have the users directory. So if I open my file manager, I can see exactly same directory. So if I do ls here, I'm not sure ls is available, I think dir. If I do dir here, can you see it is showing the folder called .android, .cache, whatever, the documents is there, downloads is there. Okay, so that means we are able to see these particular folders without checking our folder directory, right? How cool is that? So that's what we call the terminal or CMD, command prompt. Okay, so if I open my let's say this particular graphical user interface, and if I go to the this PC, and if I go into the C, and if I go to the users and abi, so can you see, I'm going to see exactly list of the same folder that I saw right here. Can you see, we have .android, yeah, we have .android. .cache is there, yeah, we have .cache, and we have all list right here, which is present here also. Okay, the only difference is we are accessing this on the terminal, and here we are accessing on the graphical user interface. On the server side, we are going to use the terminal, or let's say command prompt all the time. So that's only difference between the server and, let's say, your normal computer. Okay, so I hope everything is clear about the server. If you have any doubt, you can just ask me in the comments below and I'll try to answer. Okay, another thing is we have someone called server provider. So what exactly is a server provider? So when we buy the server, it has to be somewhere, it has to be in some data centers, right? I'll explain what is a data center also. So where the server is, so there are companies called DigitalOcean, there are companies like AWS, Google. They have collected, let's say, the data center in which they put all the computers or optimized servers, hardware, exactly like hardware like computers, right? And then they assign you those computer, right? So that's why we call them cloud providers. Okay, so cloud provider has the ability to assign you the server, or assign you the small part of the server. So that's where the cloud provider comes in. So let me give you one example. So you might be knowing that there is a cloud provider called the DigitalOcean, or there is a cloud provider called the AWS. When we go to their website, so let me share my screen and let's search right here. Linode. Okay, Linode is also one cloud provider, or DigitalOcean is also one cloud provider. So when we go to their website, and when we click on the pricing, they show the pricing for the server. Okay, so let's say they have one feature called dedicated server plan. Okay, they have one plan called dedicated server, in which we can buy the computer which has, let's say, 4 GB RAM, and which has 2 core CPUs, which has the disk of 80 GB, and the network transfer is allowed up to 40 B. What is the network transfer? So when we recharge our mobile phone, we check the what is the internet pack. Is it 1 GB per day? Is it 1 GB per month? That's exactly the network transfer. Okay, so here it is for TB. And what is the speed? Like on our mobile phone, we say I have 4 Mbps speed, I have 10 Mbps speed. So that's the speed right here. They have 40 Gbps speed right here. Okay, so yeah, so this is how we buy this server. Obviously not this much costly server, we have a lot of types of server. This is dedicated, that means the server is only allocated to you. Then we have shared server also, these are really cheap. So can you see, we have 1 GB RAM, 1 core CPU, and then we have storage which is 25 GB, and then we have transfer which is 1 GB, right? So these are the servers. So you might be wondering why this server is costly, because if you see, this is 1 GB and 1 core, and it is costing $5 for a month for you. Okay, so the thing is, they are maintaining the server on their side, they are maintaining computers on their side. So we need to pay for their electricity, we need to pay for their maintenance, we need to pay for their backup service and whatnot, right? And in addition, they have their own margins also. So that's why the servers are costlier, right? But if I talk on about my local PC, for example, then what I have, so can you see, I have around 11 cores or 12 cores. Okay, I have 12 cores on my PC. I have 64 GB RAM. I have disk which is more than 500 GB, and another disk is 1 TB, right? So all of these additional to the GPU I have on my server, but I am maintaining this on my home. I am doing maintenance. I am changing the disk in case the disk is getting, let's say, damage or something, right? I am paying for my internet. I am paying for my GPU, which is I'm buying, right? So all of these maintenance costs are there, which are handled by us. That's why it looks cheap. But when we rent something, it is really costly, because these are the guys, or those are the guys which are going to maintain for you. Okay, so that's why the server are costly. But if you use for short period, it is not costly. Let me give you an example. Can you see, it is saying $5 per month, and per dollar per hour it is, let's say, 0.0075 dollars. So if I use this for 1 hour, then it will only cost me like this. If I use for 2 hours, it will just it will make cost like, let's say, into two, right? So it is a really less amount. Okay, so it provides the flexibility, it provides reliability, it provides higher uptime, it provides better efficiency. So that's why these are costlier. Okay, so that's we call the server providers. Here we buy the server. Similarly, we have another server provider which is AWS, which is most popular server provider. Then we have GCP, that means Google Cloud Service or platform. That's also one server provider. Then we have Digital Ocean. Okay, Digital Ocean, it will autocomplete. Okay, DigitalOcean right here, that's also the server provider. There is a Vultr, there is a Contabo. But among of these, which are the most cheap? I'll say DigitalOcean, Linode. These are the cheap and reliable, and which has higher uptime, and which offers the better efficiency, or you can say, yeah, they have optimized servers. Okay, so that's all about the servers, that's all about the server providers, that's all about the cloud providers in short. Okay, if you have any additional details, like comments or questions, you can comment below. Um, I'm just explaining everything by keeping in the mind that I need to go to the Evilginx course. Okay, so whatever is necessary, I'll explain. Obviously, in the cloud providers, we have a lot of service, not only the server. They offer a lot of types of service like domain. They offer the DNS. They offer the GPU clusters. They offer the Kubernetes. They offer the database service. All of that. But I'm just explaining the VPS, virtual private server, or normal server that we buy on the cloud providers, because that's what we are going to use in our course, right? So yeah, That's all about this particular video, and if you have any doubt, you know what to do. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next.